Well, good afternoon from Two Happy Children Farm. It's the first week of September here in Central Texas, and I'm out in our standing sweet corn field. And I wanted to highlight a few things that we do here in Central Texas that you may not get to do where you farm. First of all, sweet corn. This is our second season fields of sweet corn. Our initial fields of sweet corn go in with field corn, and we'll keep planting for about 6 weeks in the spring. Once we get to middle of June to late June, it starts to get pretty hot for the corn, so filling the ears out is difficult. And all of our early corn in the spring is all dry land, so we're relying on rainfall to keep it through. Then we turn the corner in late July and we start our fall season. And this is our fall season. I have a couple fields here, and our fall season is different in that we don't plant quite as much, and we also no-till the fall season corn. So this corn was planted straight in the center of the rows of the spring field. You can still see the corn stalk standing in the middle of those two rows, and we just no-tilled in the sweet corn. What's good about that for us in Central Texas, and probably your part too, is after we harvest in late June, we don't have time for the corn to break down and then plow it and then disc it and cultivate it before we need to plant again. Oftentimes we won't get rain from middle of June to late July, so if you had disked it and cultivated it, you'd really make a mess and have a nice powdery bed, or you could have a lot of clods, and without a reliable rain you may not get a good seed bed at all. So what I do is I reuse that same field from the spring, don't disturb the seed bed, and just turn up the down pressure and plant my sweet corn. This second field here was planted August 10th, and the soil was completely dry. So what I did on this field was we had the down pressure set to maximum. We planted this very deep, 2.5 to 3 inches deep, and then you'll see the black tubes next to each row. Once we plant it, then we have to irrigate it to get enough water down there to germinate. You can plant it and then hope there's enough moisture down there for germination. But what I've seen that do is give you a lot of uneven stands, and sometimes those first seeds will germinate, and then within a day or so they'll hit the 90-degree soil temperature, and the roots dry out and die very rapidly. So we found it safest to go ahead and assume you're going to need to irrigate this fall crop, and so that's what we do. About 10 days after we plant it, we go ahead and irrigate it again because it's spiked and it's starting to put out roots, so we want those to come out into nice moist soil. This planting over here was 2 weeks ahead of it, so it was planted into moisture. We had a 1-inch rain about 4 days before planting, so I lightened up on the down pressure, but again we went down the same rows as our spring planting. Lightened up the down pressure, and then came back in 2 days and started irrigating. There was enough moisture there to get the seed sprouted, but after it sprouted it would often hit dry soil, because we can easily be 100 degrees for weeks on end. And I'll show you a downside here of irrigating. This section of the row is where, from what I can tell, the emitters on the drip tape were plugged. So these, there's a big skip here. It's not a planter issue. There's just zero water coming out of the emitters. So this area is about a month away from harvesting. And just so you understand our crop season here, in August we get about 1,100 heat units. September we get another 900. So that's an easily 2,000 heat units to make a sweet corn crop. More than enough. Got a little rain coming in. Now this is our third field, planted 2 weeks later, and this one was the most messy weed situation I had. Soil is completely dry, and I just put down the down pressure, planted deep, and came back and irrigated. And so far I'm happy with the stand I'm getting and the uniformity. The uniformity with sweet corn is probably the most critical things. You want every plant to be vigorous. When you get those weaker late emergers, they're not going to make an ear, and that's what you're paid for with sweet corn, is ears. So again, this was my messiest field, and I wanted to see how it would work. I put my row cleaners on maximum clearance. You can see they don't do much on sod. They probably need like something to cut it first so they can clean it off, but they still were able to get through there with my Truvy openers and cut a nice slot. So we don't do as much sweet corn in the fall. It just takes more labor to get all the irrigation out, but it's a very rewarding crop. So we'll have sweet corn the month of October, and then the first couple weeks of September or November. And the customers really receive it well because they've been cooped up eating zucchini and squash and okra for the last 3 or 4 months, and anything different in their diet before we head into broccoli and cabbage season is very appreciated. One other thing is looking at this corn. It's got some really good tillering going on. These are those side shoots coming off of each main plant, and I noticed this tillering began around 4 collar stage. So this corn already knew it was in a good healthy situation and it started tillering, and in part that's really helping me close the canopy on these rows, because sweet corn is notorious for staying open canopy and letting the weeds grow back. So I'm happy with this corn. We should be tasseling here, fully tasseled here in about 10 days, and heading towards harvest. You can see the field over there is another sweet corn field from the spring, and it's just laying fallow. I may go back into the spring and just no-till plant that sweet corn field as well. Having really good luck here in the fall, and if I don't have to disturb the soil and I still get the same crop, then it's worth it, because sometimes this is an erodible part of the ground. I hate to see that happen. So thanks for watching, and I hope you're having a good fall.